happens when a poor little boy brought milk to the dying Apache. Next week, 400 warriors came for him. Witness this unbelievable, true-inspired story right here on Whisper of the Past. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share where you're watching from. Let's get started. The Arizona desert in 1876 was a harsh and unforgiving place. The sun scorched the red earth without mercy, and survival meant knowing when to show strength and when to show compassion. This is a story about a choice that changed everything. A moment when a small act of kindness created ripples that would echo through history. 10-year-old Samuel Henderson lived with his family on a small homestead near the edge of Apache territory. His father worked the land from sunrise to sunset, trying to coax life from the stubborn soil. His mother tended to their few animals and kept the household running. Samuel, the youngest of 3 children, had the daily responsibility of milking their cow. The family's most valuable possession, life on the frontier, taught children to grow up fast. Samuel knew how to handle a rifle, how to read tracks in the dirt, and most importantly, he knew the tensions that existed between the settlers and the Apache tribes. The newspapers in town were filled with stories of conflicts, raids, and bloodshed on both sides. Fear was as common as the dust that blew through their settlement. 1. Scorching afternoon. While Samuel was walking back from the creek with a pail of water, he noticed something unusual near a cluster of rocks about 100 yards from his home. At first, he thought it might be an injured animal, but as he cautiously approached, he realized it was a man, an Apache warrior. By the look of his clothing and the markings he wore, every instinct told Samuel to run back to the house and alert his father. The warrior appeared to be severely injured, barely conscious, his breathing shallow and labored. A deep wound in his side had bled through the makeshift bandage he had applied. This man was dying, alone under the merciless sun. Samuel stood frozen, his heart pounding in his chest. He had been taught to fear the Apache, to see them as enemies. But looking at this dying man, all he saw was someone suffering, someone who needed help. The warrior's lips were cracked and bleeding from dehydration, his skin burning with fever. Without fully understanding why, Samuel made a decision that would have terrified his parents. Instead of running home to tell his father about the Apache warrior, he ran home to get help for him. He grabbed a tin cup, filled it with fresh milk from that morning's milking, and took a piece of bread his mother had baked. He wrapped these in a cloth and hurried back to the rocks. The warrior's eyes flickered open as Samuel approached. For a moment, they simply stared at each other, boy and warrior, settler and Apache, supposed enemies meeting in the most unlikely circumstances. Samuel could see the suspicion and confusion in the man's eyes. He must have expected violence, or perhaps abandonment. Instead, this child was offering him milk. Samuel knelt beside the warrior and carefully lifted the cup to his lips. The Apache drank slowly, painfully, but he drank. Samuel tore the bread into small pieces, making it easier for the weak man to eat. He didn't speak. The warrior didn't speak. Words seemed unnecessary in that moment. For 3 days, Samuel returned to those rocks. Each time he brought milk, bread, and water. He cleaned the warrior's wound with water from the creek and used clean cloth torn from his own shirt to make fresh bandages. His parents never knew. He told them he was exploring, playing, doing the things boys do. In reality, he was saving a life. On the 4th day, the warrior was strong enough to speak. His name was Nach, which meant mischief maker. Though there was nothing mischievous about his bearing now. In broken English and through gestures, he asked Samuel why. Why help him? Why risk everything? Samuel's answer was simple and profound in its innocence. Because you needed help. Because it was the right thing to do. On the 5th day, Nach was gone. Samuel arrived at the rocks with his usual offerings, to find the spot empty except for a single eagle. Feather placed carefully on the stone where the warrior had lain. Samuel took the feather and tucked it safely in his pocket, wondering if he would ever know what became of the man he had helped. 1 week later, Samuel was working in the field with his father when they heard it. A sound that made every settler's blood run cold. The thunder of hoofbeats, many hoofbeats, approaching fast. Samuel's father grabbed his rifle and shouted for the family to get inside the house. Through the window, they watched in terror as the riders came into view. 400 Apache warriors, An entire war party, painted and armed, riding in formation toward their small homestead. Samuel's mother began to pray. His father checked his ammunition, knowing it would never be enough. This was how frontier families died, overwhelmed and outnumbered, their names becoming just another tragic story. But the warriors didn't attack. They stopped 50 yards from the house and sat silently on their horses. Then, one rider moved forward. It was Nate, now fully recovered, sitting tall and proud on a painted horse. Beside him rode an older warrior, a man whose bearing commanded respect, a chief. Samuel's father, showing more courage than he felt, stepped outside. Samuel followed, still clutching the eagle feather in his pocket. Nate dismounted and walked forward. In front of the entire war party, in front of Samuel's terrified family, he knelt before the boy. Through an interpreter, the chief explained. Nate was his nephew, a respected warrior who had been wounded in a skirmish and separated from his people. They had searched for him, believing him dead. But he had returned with an incredible story about a white child who had saved his life when he should have been left to die or turned in for a bounty. The chief declared that because of Samuel's kindness, his family would be under the protection of the Apache. No member of their tribe would ever harm them. Any who threatened them would answer to the warriors standing before them now. The 400 warriors had come not as a war party, but as an honor guard, to acknowledge and protect the family of the boy who had shown mercy. Nate placed a beaded necklace around Samuel's neck, a token that would identify him as a friend of the Apache. Then, as suddenly as they had arrived, the warriors turned and rode away, leaving the Henderson family standing in stunned silence. Samuel's act of compassion had done what treaties and negotiations had failed to do. It had created a bridge between two worlds, a moment of understanding in a time of conflict. His family lived on that homestead for another 40 years, and true to the chief's word, they were never troubled by Apache raids that affected neighboring settlements. The story of the boy who brought milk to the dying Apache became legend, passed down through generations as a reminder that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is choose kindness when fear tells you to do otherwise. Samuel Henderson proved that one small act of humanity can echo louder than 1,000 acts of violence. And that, dear viewers, is the power of compassion. If this story moved you, please like this video, subscribe to Whisper of the Past for more incredible true stories from history, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Where are you watching from? Until next time, remember that history is full of heroes, and sometimes they're just children with kind hearts.